A client recently came to us and asked us about how do they have greater diversity of applicants who are applying for roles in their organisation. And it raises a good question about how do we create diversity in our talent pools. There are many organisations that face similar issues. They're looking for the reasons why people aren't applying for roles inside their organisation and how do they better market or promote themselves. But when we talk about diversity and inclusion, there's some interesting points that you should think about as an organisation to understand how your organisation can benefit and take the best approach going forward. The first point is thinking about, do you have both diversity and inclusion? So diversity is the difference between people, but inclusion is how well you incorporate those differences into your organisation and leverage them. You need to know what the benefits are of having a diverse and inclusive workforce. So for example, better representation of your client database so you can better understand who they are. Or actually reducing your groupthink and being able to have more creative and innovative ideas, all which contribute to greater revenue and profit options for your organisation. When I worked in the wealth management industry, one of the benefits they were looking at in terms of their diversity was actually being able to relate to different customers. They realised that many of their brokers were of an older generation, but that didn't represent who their clients were. So they deliberately invested in training younger brokers into the industry so that they could represent and build trust and rapport better with their clients. Another discussion point to look at is then actually barriers to diversity inclusion. So what might be an unconscious bias that you have inside your organisation? Even as simple as looking at job descriptions and what do you put in them. If I said in a leadership role you required 10 years leadership experience inside that industry, who are we ruling out by creating that? And is 10 years experience absolutely necessary? Often we have nice to haves, but not actually looking at what are the critical skills and focus areas. So those barriers may be things that are in place we just haven't reviewed or challenged in a period of time. So look for those barriers. The next thing to think about is how do you educate leaders and people inside your organisation around what is diversity and inclusion. So we can be diverse in our backgrounds, in our preferences, in our personality types, and our industry experience or previous experiences. But we can also be diverse in terms of age, gender, national background, etc. All of these form diversity. So it's important not just to look at a siloed view of it. Then we spend time making sure that people know what expectations of them are and what behaviours actually create inclusive environments. And then lastly, develop a strategy purposefully around diversity and inclusion. That means looking at your performance life cycle of an employee and thinking about what do you need in place at each stage. That starts pre-employment, before you actually start recruitment. Where do you connect with your communities? Where do you connect with educators or educational institutions around promoting your type of industry or the type of role that they could be involved in? Then think about recruitment and selection. How do you review your CVs and applications? Could you actually remove names, ages, genders, anything that's identifiable so you can review them without any bias? You can also then think about who applies versus who you might have to actually tap on the shoulder or seek out. So don't rely just on those people who apply, but seek people of different backgrounds. Next, think about career development and opportunities that you put forward for people. How can you create buddies, mentors, coaches within or outside the organisation so as people from different backgrounds are able to build trusted relationships with people who can guide and grow them in their careers? And then lastly, let's think about exits. So too often when someone leaves an organisation, we close the relationship. But in fact, they go out and develop more experience and they learn more in their careers about diverse thinking and diverse opportunities. So they in themselves can be a wonderful asset to have back in the organisation. So think about how you can maintain those relationships. So if you've got challenges around your talent pools and the diversity and inclusion practices in your organisation, feel free to give us a call at K3 Consulting. We're happy to have a chat.